Okay, so I gotta get started here. Before you can begin with these lessons, you actually need to go through my introduction. You need to learn about the timeline, and you need to learn how to make buttons. If you don't remember this from, you haven't had the class in a while, you don't remember from a previous class, some of you may not have had this Flash class, the first one, for a couple of years, so go ahead and do that. And then go ahead and open up this first file. So I'm going to open this up in CS6. Now the book is for CS5. If you use the cloud version, things may be different. So I'm just going to use CS6 because it's like right in between. I'm going to open it up with that. Take a couple of minutes here. It's like a second actually. Okay, so I'm just going to move things around a little bit. Sometimes things get thrown all over the place when you're working with your file. So you can kind of move your file the way you want it. And make sure you have ActionScript open up. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to move it out of the way. On the code snippet, I'm going to kind of put that with my ActionScript. So I have both together. So here's the ActionScript. I'm working with my little small laptop. This doesn't want to tape too well on my desktop. So you're just going to have to bear with me. Let me just make this a little smaller. You need to have the library opened up and your properties panel and the action panel. And obviously you have to have your movie. And you need to have your timeline open up. So those are what you really need to have open up right now. You can link your action panel with the code snippet. You can link them together. You can link the library also with the properties panel. Okay, and the history, you might want to have your history opened up too. I'm going to expand this down. So let's get started here. First, I want to save this file to something different than lesson 1 start. So you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to just go File, Save As. I'm just going to call it Start. Just Start 2. I've been working with this before, so I'm just going to hit Save. And it's going to ask me if I want to change it to this version because I'm upgrading it a little bit. So let's just see what this movie looks like. Just go up to where it says Control, Test, and Test. Let's see what we have so far. Alright, so we got a movie that's just going all over the place, and then it stops at the home, and then it goes over again and repeats again. So we're going to make some changes in this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add ActionScript using the code snippet. Now again, you need to have that open up. So you need to have your the ActionScript panel open up and the code snippet panel. So you can create ActionScript on any keyframe in the main timeline of Flash movie. You can also create it on any keyframe within a movie clip symbol. So we're going to go ahead and open up the code snippet that I have right here. And we can see here, in addition to typing code directly into the action panel, you can add code to this panel using the code snippet, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So the code snippet, as its name implies, has pre-built chunks of ActionScript 3.0 code that can easily be added to your project and modified to suit your purposes. So the very first thing we're going to do here is we're going to select the buttons layer, which is right down here. I have it here. I'm going to select right in here, and the buttons layer on the first keyframe. Okay, so you want to select the first keyframe, and make sure you have the correct layer selected, which is buttons, and the very first keyframe. And I'm going to go over to my library. I'm going to move this for 1 minute because it's kind of in the way. And over in my library, I am going to find my little button that I had made. It says button right here. I'm going to select this. It says label on it. That's the name of it. And I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to put it right down here. Okay, so now we have that selected. Don't go anywhere. Then drag it out to the stage. So I'm going to give this instance a new name. Okay, so let's just go to the properties panel. You still have it selected. Up here is where you name your instance. And I'm going to name this help button underscore BTN, which stands for button. So go ahead and do that. Name it your instance. Make sure you name all your instance. It's very important. So I'm just kind of following along in the book here and make sure I don't miss anything. So I'm going to name my label. You're going to go down to the component parameters. Right here where it says component parameters. If you see right over here in your properties panel. And right here where it says label. And I'm going to name my label. I'm going to change this label. And I'm going to call it Flash Support. Okay, now once you do this, it changes over here. And you see now once you change the property of this label and you change the label name, and it's going to automatically change over on your file. Right now I'm going to save. I like to keep saving. You don't want to lose your work. It's always a good idea to keep saving. So we're going to open up the code snippet here. And the first one we're going to select is where it says actions. Now you see there's all different kinds of things that you can do. You can do actions, timeline navigation, animation, load and unload, audio and video, event handlers, etc., etc. The first ones we're going to probably work with, not work so much with the bottom ones. But let's just open up where it says action. So depending on the functionality needed, the code snippet can be applied in a few different ways. For a code snippet that is intended to execute when the user interacts with a button, as in the case here, you apply the snippet by first selecting the button. So that's what we have to do. We have to select the button on the stage, make sure that's selected, and then applying the code snippet. So first thing you do is select the button. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select, I want to select this one right here where it says go to the web page, because that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to double click it. There you go. So it goes automatically goes right straight to the code, and we can see what we have here for code. Let's just scroll down. Now this gray area up on top is just telling you what to do. Okay, don't change anything in here because you've already put all this information in. So it's right here. It says you're going to add event listener, mouse click, go to the web page. The function is click to go to web page, event, mouse, event. Okay, so we've already told them, we've already told Flash that we want this button to go to this website. So it automatically goes in with the www.adobe.com website. So all you have to do is just change this website. So I'm just going to click right here, right after where it says .com. And you have to write exactly what it says in the book. So we're going to go to Flash Help. And let me just find where this is on this page. We're going to go to Flash Support. I believe that's what they want us to do. Okay, so I'm going to select right here, right after where it says the com. And I'm going to make a slash. I'm going to write support. Support, and then Flash. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. You're going to make sure it's inside these quotes. I'm going to save my movie. And then I'm going to check it. I'm going to go to Control test, test. I'm going to select where it says flash support. And there we go. Okay, so that's working. So next thing we're going to do is now we're going to place code on the flash timeline. So before you start adding ActionScript, notice that among the layers in the timeline, there is one that is called label. So if you look right here, we find this layer right here that's called label. I'm just going to select it. Okay. And this layer, frame 2, has the label loop, and frame 50 has the label home. So you can see this right here, that we have this label that says loop right there. Oops. This one says loop, and this one says home. So make sure you have that selected. So we're going to select frame 30. We're going to add a keyframe. So you can add a keyframe by pressing F6 or insert timeline keyframe. You can also right click, but I don't have right click ability because I don't have my mouse. So I'm just going to select here. Make sure you're on frame 30. And I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to insert timeline keyframe. Actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to just move one more over because it didn't go on the right one. And make sure it's on the right one. Okay, so you have your keyframe there. And that's what you want to do. So with the new keyframe selected, you're going to find the label section in the upper corner of the properties panel, and you're going to type in end loop. So we're going to go ahead and with the keyframe selected, and we're going to type over in here where it says label, we're going to write end, and we're going to write loop. And you watch what happens. So here we have, it says end loop. It automatically goes on the timeline, and that's what we want to do. We want to give these names. It's very important that you have some sort of control over your timeline. So with the new, we have that done. So press, and we'll see what happens. Whoops. I'm going to go up into the ActionScript section here, and I already have a keyframe in here. For some reason mine opened up with a keyframe, but if you don't have a keyframe, then you're going to want to insert one. Just go up to the top, insert timeline, and keyframe, and put a keyframe in at keyframe 30. So there's many reasons that you might want to loop playback with ActionScript. Situations you may want to play a section of the timeline repeatedly. For example, an animation might loop while waiting for additional content to load, or while the user is deciding which section of a website to go to next. So first foray in writing your own ActionScript, you will loop the animation that plays from frame 2 to frame 30, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to actually write in the ActionScript for this. So in the ActionScript layer, you got to put in the new keyframe that we already did. And at this insertion point, we're going to type in go to and play loop. So you're going to go ahead and write that right here. We're going to write go to. And you got to make sure you put in the little quotes, okay? Okay, so far we just have the first code that we've written. So let's just save and see what this does. Let's see what happens to our animation. Make sure that you wrote everything correct. Go to and play and loop in quotes, and you also have to have a little mark afterwards. And you got to make sure you have it on the action layer. So let's just file and save. And let's see what happens. We're going to go to Control, Test, Test. You see it continues on. We no longer go to that very first frame. So far, it's doing exactly what we want it to do. So I'm going to stop here. It's going to keep playing over and over and over again. So you notice no longer reaches the home frame, but instead it plays the opening animation over and over again. So we're going to do something different here. We're going to keep track of the number of loops. So in the next section, you will program your file to jump to the home frame after a specific number of loops. But first you'll add some code to keep track of the number of times that the animation has played. You'll do this by storing the value for the number of loops in a variable. So we're going to work with var. So creating a count variable. The purpose of a variable is to store a reference to data. So ActionScript 3 can store references to many types of data in variables. And you will create many of these in the coming lessons. So we're going to store data in the variable. So to create a variable, we're going to use var. So you're going to actually type in var. What you do is you need to go to your action layer and just select the very first keyframe here. And you notice that you already have ActionScript placed in there, so you're going to go right below what you already have. And you're just going to simply write var count. Make sure that you write it correctly, because if you don't write it correctly, it won't display correctly. Okay, you know that it's written correctly when you see that it has changed colors. So you're just going to write below the existing code, this code snippet, you're just going to write var count number equals 1. So next what you're going to do is you're going to go to keyframe 30 here that we have put in before. Now we notice that we have some script in there already. And I'm going to just go down and I'm going to write count with the little plus signs. And then you're going to save. I'm going to keep saving. It's always a good idea to keep saving. So the characters, the plus signs, are shorthand ways in ActionScript to increase the value by 1. The code you just wrote loosely translates to take the current value of the count variable and add 1 to it. So the result is that the second time the animation plays, count will equal 2. The third time it plays, the count will equal 3, and so on. But we have to assign it. So we have to assign the text. So next what you're going to do is you're going to select the type field. Let me just move this for 1 minute and close this up. Just going to move this over here for a second. I'm going to select my type here. Go back to my desk. You're going to make sure everything is unlocked or you can't work on it. So if you look down your timeline and the text is locked, you're not going to be able to select it. So you just need to select your text on the field. And notice that you, when you select your text, it is called info, the instance is info underscore text, TXT for text. So again, it's essential that all objects on stage will be controlled with ActionScript by given instance name. So you have to give everything an instance name. So in the ActionScript layer, select frame 2. So I'm going to select frame 2. I'm going to go to my ActionScript layer. Make sure that's unlocked too. Make sure you have this selected. Go to frame 2. We're going to insert a keyframe. Timeline keyframe. Now I'm going to go over to my ActionScript here so I can see it. And then I'm going to type the following code. You have to write it exactly as it's in the book. INFO. So we have to write info text because that's what, make sure you have it selected. That is our instance name. So let's just save this. And let's say what we have. Let's just go to Control, Test, Test. Now you notice how it goes up. If you look at the numbers, it will go up as many times that it replays, it will keep continuing going up. Okay, so a project that plays over and over again doesn't really do very much for you. We need to place in a conditional statement to control the timeline. So when you add a conditional statement to your code, a conditional statement in ActionScript checks to see if a condition is true. So in this case, it's the count variable. It's more than 4. Then the code will execute that. It goes to the home frame. So in other words, you have to place in some sort of condition. You have to tell Flash when to stop, how many counts you want your file to go to, and where it needs to go when it stops. So let's just select frame 30 here. I already have this selected and already put the code in. And you can see that I'm giving this my file a condition. If the count is greater than 4, go to and stop where it says home. So you have home in your loop here. If you look here, home is at 50, okay? Or else go to and play and loop. So we go back to the loop, which is right back at the front. And then of course you have your statement here, your count plus statement. So this will make a big difference in how your file is and how it's going to look. So when you play this, it's actually just going to go up to 5. And then we're just going to do one last thing before I show you what this looks like. Let's go ahead and go to ActionScript right here. You're still in ActionScript. This is 30. You just take the time to write this in, and then you can check and see how your file looks. Put the code in already for 50. So all I'm going to do is just select 50, and where it'll show info underscore text dot text. And remember we did this before. So you're just going to place in the text, and all this is doing is placing in the text for info underscore text for the instance. So just go ahead and place that in, and let's see how this file looks now. So I'm just going to go up to the top, and I'm going to do Control, Test, and Test. Now you see the numbers are still counting up, but the number will stop at 5, and it goes back to the home frame, and that's exactly what you want to do. So this is the end of this very first lesson. We're going to go ahead and start working on lesson 2. I'm going to stop here.